Welcome. If you are listening right now, you are doing something important. You are giving your mind time to become familiar with English. Not to memorize, not to translate, but to settle into the language. This episode is about one thing only: thinking in English naturally. No pressure, no force. Just understanding how it really works. Take a breath, and let's begin. Why translation slows you down? Many learners believe that thinking in English means speed. It does not. The real problem is translation. When you translate, your mind works twice. First, you think in your own language. Then, you convert it into English. This creates hesitation, uncertainty, tension. British English does not like tension. It prefers ease, flow, quiet confidence. So instead of translating ideas, we learn to recognize ready-made thoughts. English is built on chunks. Native speakers do not build sentences word by word. They use chunks. Listen to these. I think it's important too. I'm not sure if that's right. The thing is, from my point of view, these are not sentences. They are thinking tools. British English is full of them. Once you learn these chunks, your mind stops searching. It simply chooses. That is how thinking in English begins. Calm British thinking patterns. British English often sounds thoughtful. That is because British speakers leave space in their speech. They think while speaking. Listen to this pattern. Well, I suppose it depends. To be honest, I haven't decided yet. This is natural. This is real. You are not expected to be fast. You are expected to be considered. Thinking slowly is not a weakness. It is a cultural strength. Everyday thoughts in English. Now let's practice internal thoughts. Simple ones. Listen. I need to focus. I'll take my time. That's clear enough. I can deal with that. These are the thoughts native speakers repeat daily. No complex grammar. No advanced vocabulary. Just useful, repeatable patterns. If you practice these thoughts, English becomes familiar inside your head. The British way of being polite in thought. British English is polite, even in thinking. Instead of strong statements, it prefers softer language. Compare this. This is wrong. With this, I'm not sure that's quite right. The second sounds educated. Balanced. Very British. Thinking this way helps you speak this way. A long listening exercise story. Now, just listen. No repeating, no analyzing. Let the language pass through your mind. Someone wakes up early. The morning is quiet. They make a warm drink and sit near the window. They are not in a hurry. They listen to English, not actively, only. Some sentences are clear, some are not, and that is perfectly fine. They do not stop. They do not judge themselves. They simply listen. Later, they notice something. English feels less foreign, less distant. It feels familiar, almost comfortable. That is how thinking in English begins. When words don't come, there will be moments when words disappear. This happens to everyone. British speakers respond like this. Let me think for a moment. How can I put this? These phrases buy time. They remove pressure. Silence is allowed. You do not need to fill every second. Thinking is part of speaking. Building confidence quietly. Confidence in British English is not loud. It is subtle. It sounds like this. I believe that's reasonable. I'm fairly confident about that. That seems right to me. Notice the moderation. Not extreme, not dramatic. This is the tone you want to adopt. Replacing fear with familiarity. Fear comes from the unknown. Listening removes fear. The more English you hear, the less threatening it becomes. Your brain begins to predict. Prediction creates comfort. Comfort creates confidence. This is not motivation. This is science. Final reflection. Let's finish with a quiet thought. You do not need to speak perfectly. You need to think comfortably. English is not outside you. It is slowly forming inside you. Every calm listening moment adds another layer. Nothing is wasted. Have you ever felt like your brain is a super busy translation office when you're retrying to speak English? You hear something, your brain frantically flips through a mental dictionary, translates it into your native language, formulates a reply, translates it back into English. And then, finally, you speak. Exhausting, right? I've been there. For years, that was my reality. But what if I told you there's a moment, a magical turning point, where all that noise just stops? Today, I want to take you on a journey through my own experience of learning English. Specifically, focusing on that incredible shift from active, clunky translation to a state of passive, effortless understanding. It's a process, not an overnight miracle, and I want to break down the stages, the frustrations, and the breakthroughs that got me to a place where English finally felt like it was a part of me. Let's rewind to the beginning. Stage 1. The translator. In my early days, every single English word was a puzzle piece. I couldn't hear, "How are you?" without my brain immediately shouting, "Nizamayan?" in the background. My mind was constantly running this two-way translation software. When I watched movies, I'd read the subtitles, then try to match the English audio, and my brain would be on fire trying to keep up. Speaking was even worse. I would construct entire sentences perfectly in my head, in my own language, and then painstakingly translate them word for word. The result? Unnatural, slow, and often grammatically awkward sentences. I sounded like a robot. I remember trying to tell a joke, and by the time I had translated it, the moment was gone. The punchline landed with a thud. It was incredibly frustrating. I knew what I wanted to say, but the bridge between my thoughts and my English speech was a long, rickety one. This translation phase is a necessary evil for most of us. It's how we build our foundation. But staying in this stage for too long is like trying to learn to swim while refusing to let go of the edge of the pool. You're in the water, but you're not really swimming. The first big shift for me came when I started to notice patterns. This is stage 2, the pattern recognizer. I began to realize that certain phrases always appeared together. "Nice to meet you." "Have a good day." "I'm looking forward to it." I started to memorize these chunks of language. Instead of translating, I'm looking forward to it piece by piece. My brain started to register the whole phrase as a single unit of meaning. It was a shortcut. This was a huge step. I started listening to podcasts and watching TV shows without my native language subtitles, using only English ones instead. It was tough at first. I didn't understand everything, but I started to absorb the rhythm, the flow, and these common chunks of language. My brain was slowly, reluctantly, starting to let go of the need to translate every single word. The real breakthrough, however, is what I call stage 3, the guessing game. This is where I started to embrace ambiguity. I forced myself into situations where I had no choice but to understand from context. I joined an online gaming community where people were talking fast, using slang, and there was no pause button. At first, it was a blur of noise. I probably understood only 30%. But instead of panicking and trying to translate, I started to guess. Based on the tone of voice, the situation in the game, and the few words I did recognize, I would piece together the meaning. I was wrong a lot of the time, and it was embarrassing sometimes. But something amazing happened. My brain, out of sheer necessity, started to build direct connections between English words and the concepts they represented. The word tree no longer went through the mental filter of my native word for tree. It just connected directly to the image of a tree. This was the beginning of thinking in English. It felt like a new operating system was being installed in my brain. This leads us to stage 4, the immersion. This stage is less about active study and more about living. I changed the language on my phone to English. I started reading books that I genuinely enjoyed in English, not just textbooks. I followed creators and news outlets in English on social media. My digital world became an English world. The goal was to make English so commonplace that my brain would stop treating it as a foreign language. It was about creating an environment where hearing and reading English was as normal as breathing. There were days I would get headaches from the sheer volume of new information, but gradually the headaches subsided. I found myself watching a whole movie and only realizing at the end that I had thought about translation once. I was just watching. The story, the characters, the emotions, they were all coming to me directly, without a middleman. And that brings us to the final stage where I feel I am now. Stage 5, passive understanding. This doesn't mean I know every word or that I never make mistakes. I absolutely do. But the internal translator has been fired. He's packed his bags and left the building. Now, when I hear English, it just lands. When I think of what to say, the words often come out in English first. It's a feeling of fluency that has nothing to do with having a perfect accent or a massive vocabulary. It's a feeling of cognitive ease. The language is no longer a barrier. It's just a tool, like my hands or my eyes. I can listen to a podcast while cooking, and my focus is on the cooking, but I'm still absorbing the content of the podcast. English has become background noise in the best way possible. It's just there. So how do you get there? It's not about finding the one perfect method. It's about consciously pushing yourself from one stage to the next. If you're stuck in the translator stage, start actively looking for chunks and patterns. Force yourself to memorize whole phrases. If you're a pattern recognizer, it's time to start the guessing game. Put yourself in situations where you don't understand everything. Embrace the discomfort. Let your brain do the hard work of building new connections. And for everyone, immersion is key. Weave English into the fabric of your daily life until it's no longer a special event, but just a part of your routine. It's a long and sometimes difficult journey. There will be plateaus where you feel like you're not making any progress, but that moment, that glorious, quiet moment when you realize you're no longer translating, is worth every bit of the effort. It's the moment you stop learning English and start living in it. Thank you so much for joining me on this little trip down memory lane. I hope hearing about my journey gives you some insight or encouragement for your own. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. So be kind to yourself and celebrate the small victories along the way. If you have any stories about your own language learning journey, I would absolutely love to read them in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe for more content about language and learning. See you in the next one.